Representative Dan Swanson, your thoughts on the commentary so far?
Yeah, my thoughts. I think we've missed one other component, and that's the transportation side of what it's costing to move our materials to the ethanol plants or move our materials across the United States. And with the uncertainty too with the transportation, that can play a wild card in here too. Talking with some of my Burlington Northern friends, they're talking about possible strike next Friday. The cooling off period that they're currently in for contract negotiations ends next Friday. And boy, if they happen to walk out, that shuts us all down with how long can we store products at an ethanol plant before we need to move the product? Or, you know, how long can we survive without moving through the rail system? So, you know, that's kind of out there on the radar at the national level. And they were talking about it could cost $2 billion a day if they're shut down, $2 billion a day. And a couple things they're fighting for is a two-man crew, shutting down a rail, only having one person in a train, and some of these trains now are as long as 22,000 feet, 4 miles long. And that's why we're sitting longer at the crossroads waiting for trains to go by, because they're parking to allow another train to go past that's longer than them. So a lot of uncertainties of where this is going to go. Of course, the federal government could step in again and say, well, let's extend the cooling off period. But for how long? 30 days? That's still in the middle of harvest. 60 days? Well, that's when we're trying to move crops still. So something out there too is that the transportation not only is over the road, but over the rail that could play a major impact in our fall harvest season.
David Zimmerman from Big River Resources.
Yeah, Dan is spot on here. I mean, as we sit here today, even before the potential strike would unfold, we have a facility in Dyersville, Iowa that I was just on a conference call right before I got in here that we're facing potentially what we call a hot idle situation as we wait for an empty rail unit to arrive back at our facility. If we were to see this strike unfold, and Dan and I had a conversation about this earlier, it would take about 5 days, and our facility in Galva is full of finished product, which means we're essentially unable to dump corn at that point. So it's a real situation. I think the Presidential Emergency Board put out some good recommendations, and I know they have, I think, 5 of the 12 unions on board, but you need 7 more. So there's still a lift here, and it's very concerning.
So in that kind of scenario, you would say, well, the corn price, like, would it have an impact on the Chicago Board of Trade? May or may not. But when it comes to selling to my local elevator, my local end user, my ethanol plant, all of a sudden we can't take corn right now. So you went from $6.50 corn to having no market, potentially, overnight, or, you know, in a very short period of time.